I want to welcome you, Jasper, to Roll for Good. Thank you so much for giving your time, your very, very busy time. I wish we could have had more of you during this event, but I'm really grateful that you're here lending your support, lending your name, and lending your energy to the cause we're working for as an organization here.
Thank you for having me. As soon as you sent the email and I saw what you guys were doing, of course, I wanted to be involved. I will, I think during this event, be off on a honeymoon somewhere. So that's why I'm not more involved. But I'm glad I could be here and do this now.
Congratulations from me. Congratulations from all of us. I hope we're speaking in the past, so I hope the nuptials went without a hitch. I hope that there was some dramatic story that doesn't hurt, but you tell it with a good laugh.
Just like a little bit of fun. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. A little bit of fun would be good. I hope so too.
A little wrinkle that wasn't bad, but it's like, oh, that's a good story.
Yeah, absolutely.
We are a UK EU community of nerds. And one thing I've noticed as an expat, an immigrant here in Europe, is that when I joined the TTRPG community, I didn't see a lot of people that looked like me, right?
Yep.
And when I can think about TTRPG, the scene in general, I ask all of my friends, my American friends, my friends in the EU, UK, like, name me your top favorite TTRPG celebrities. Who are your favorite creatives? Oh, of course, Matt Mercer, Brendan Lee Mulligan. They are amazing, good people. I love them to death.
Yes.
My closer friends will say Jasmine Ballar, Erika Ishii, Talia De Paz, Carlos Luna.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And now when I tell them to say, hey, what about people in the EU and UK?
Yep.
Grant Howitt, Mark Humes.
Yeah.
They are amazing people.
Yes.
Now name me diverse people who are not men or not Caucasian. Yeah. What are your names, for example?
Well, the first one I go to is Olivia Kennedy.
Yes.
Through Black Halflings.
Through Black Halflings.
I completely agree. This was 100% the reason why I started through Black Halflings was for this exact reason. I remember Googling Black D&D on YouTube, and it came up with a Terry Crews one shot, and so I was like, really? Surely we've got to be doing better than this, no shade to Mr. Crews, but I was like, surely we can, there's got to be more content out there. And so I completely agree. I think that there's a long way to go. I know that Jane over at High Rollers at Oxventure.
Yes, Oxventure is amazing.
Yeah, we love Oxventure, and I actually got the pleasure of meeting Jane the other day at the D&D premiere, which was a lot of super fun. So we're out here. We're slowly assembling. I feel like we're slowly kind of gravitating towards each other, and things are going to happen. But yeah, I completely agree. It is a very white male dominated space, and not only that, it's hard because it's not like in other spaces where those white men are like just like not great or bad, which I mean, we can all be like, oh, we'll just get rid of them, and like, do you know what I mean? But they're all wonderful humans and allies.
Absolutely.
And, do you know what I mean? So I think that's at least we have that, I think, which is really, really good. And speaking of Matt and Brennan and Mark, they've been huge in supporting Through Black Halflings and in helping Through Black Halflings get to where it is now, and they continue to work with us and uplift us and everything like that. So I'm very, very appreciative of their efforts, but we've definitely still got a ways to go.
Does diversity at a table and representation in the game or story make the TTRPG experience better? Is water wet? Is fire hot?
Yep. Okay. The answer is going to be yes. No, it absolutely does. And the simplest way that we always talk about it is purely that whenever you get a group of people into a room, everyone is bringing the whole essence of TTRPGs is everyone is bringing their own lived experiences and their own wants and needs and desires and ambitions and all of these things into their character. And when they commit to it and the room is alive with all of that kind of like passion, the game really comes alive. And the more diverse range of thinking and the more the difference of lived experiences and the difference in culture and all of that you have at the table, the richer that melting pot is going to be. It's as simple as that. Like, as soon as you mix all of those people in together, and you start to get these, you know, beautiful interactions and moments where you're taken outside of your comfort zone, or you find something new that you love, or you know, it's, and I think genuinely it's like, you know, when you go abroad and you get to experience a new culture for the first time, and it's just like this amazing kind of experience. That's what it's like, getting to play with new players who, you know, aren't from the same area around you. And because I think that is a real there is a real honestly, like a bit of a death of creativity, I think, when you just have, like, if you're just drawing from the same well of like lived experiences and culture and everything like that, if it's just the same, you know, people from the same area, then it's just like, oh, you know, there's only so much that we can kind of experience that is outside of our own reference point. And that's not to say that you can't have a fantastic game by just playing with people that you know and that you love and etc. Of course you'll have a great game, but I think especially when it comes to content creation, I think the more diverse a table, the better your the show will be. And that's absolutely been the case with us over at Black Halflings, with everything that we've made. And we've always really pushed to have a diverse table, including having a token white guy. The reason he is there, though, I want to say, is that a close friend of ours and one of the best role players that we've ever had, and one of the most genuinely empathetic and supportive people that I've met. And actually having him involved is just so wonderful, because it's like, hey, white dudes, this is a lesson in how to be humble and how to sit with a table of POCs, not feel weird about it, and just embrace it and be, you know, live and enjoy the experience with us. Because yeah, he's a fantastic example of that. So I'm like, sit there and be an example for us, Johnny.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important to also celebrate and invite people who are willing to be allies, who are willing to bring, uplift, and listen, and then appreciate, and then go out and speak about their experiences, and then not make it about themselves, but go out there and say there is value to these creators. They need to have their stories heard. Here's how we can support them: by being involved in their socials, by speaking well of them, by showing up, engaging in their chats, leaving those reviews, all those positive things that they absolutely have a part in doing.
I completely agree.
How do you think we can encourage diverse stories being shared and celebrated here in the EU, UK? For example, what does it take to, well, easy for you to take Tales of Wagadu, for example, being celebrated. What does it take for more Coyote and Crow games to be played here? What does it take for more games like Emerald Templars, which is a full POC writing staff by Angelo Murillo with Gabe Hicks, Austin, Stella Luna? What does it take for seeing more of those games here on this side of the Atlantic?
This is annoying. There's one thing that I'm currently doing, which I can't talk too much about. But make sure to follow me on socials, because hopefully I'll be sharing some news about that soon. But I do think it starts from the top up, the top down. Sorry, as much as I always kind of like to be like, you know, I'm always going to encourage people of color and minorities to go out and make the work and, you know, do all of that. I'm also very, very aware that, like, you know, times are hard at the moment. You know, there's a lot going on in the world, and it's not easy. You know, I have always said that if I knew how hard Black Halflings was going to be, I don't know if I'd have started it. Not because I don't love it, not because I don't think it's the best thing in the world, but because, like, it's been a huge sacrifice over the last few years to, like, keep it going and keep it going to the level that we want and all of those kinds of things. And I think maybe I'll rephrase by saying I don't know if I would have done it, but I would have found it very daunting to take that on. And so I'm always kind of wary of, like, trying to push POCs or minorities to putting in that work when it's like, you don't know if you're going to get the reward out of it, and it can be exposing and difficult and a really challenging path. So I think that the way I view this is like starting from the top down, and what I mean by that is like having more visibility, more representation, so that there is more of a thirst and desire for it in the mainstream, because then I think it's less of a risk for people of color and minorities to start these things and to engage with these things, because it's more of a, you know, it sounds awful, but it's like one of those like it being a proven concept or whatever. It's like the whole, it's like Crazy Rich Asians proving that Asians can sell in Hollywood, right? And since then we've had, it's been, you know, we've been doing so much better with Asian representation within Hollywood. Still not as good as we could be.
We got Oscars.
You know, exactly. We had the Oscars, but let's also not forget that Ghost in the Shell happened, and we'll never forgive you. So you know, yeah,
Bye.
exactly. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that I do think that stuff has a huge effect on the sort of way down, and I think that the big players in the game are absolutely doing as much as they can. But I also think, just in terms of a more extended like fantasy media as well, like getting a more diversity within the kind of fantasy shows and stuff that we get. You know, I'm loving House of the Dragon, and Rings of Power was dope as hell and it was cool.
But they don't all need to be in fake feudal Europe.
Exactly, you know what I mean? Like, it's just there's a whole plethora of medieval kind of fantasy lore and folktale and all this kind of stuff that we could be tapping into, and that and I think we kind of need to see in that way, so that people, because I think that part of the problem is that people will go, oh, I do like fantasy, but it's just like knights and wizards and whatever, and they're all just like kind of, you know, white dudes and whatever. And of course that's then going to be like, well, I don't know if I want to necessarily get involved. And as soon as you start to see these more diverse settings like Wagadu or like the stuff that Coyote and Crow are doing, you know, it will cause more people to get involved in the space, of course. And I guess it's all a roundabout way of saying that, you know, I think those of us who are lucky enough to have any kind of platform have to keep going and pushing those above us as hard as humanly possible, to keep increasing, you know, diversity and keep increasing the, I'm always like kind of loath to just say diversity, but like really just like putting the work in, you know, like really just like finding something unique, finding a unique culture, a unique people, whatever it may be, and just telling a story. You know, we're not asking, you know, you to go out and be like, you need to make the Game of Thrones but set in Africa, because that's ridiculous, right? Just go out and find a unique and cool story that doesn't take place in Europe, and or like during the Civil War in America or during feudal Japan. Like, go and find different stories, you know what I mean? And for the love of God, no more Vikings. I don't get wrong, Vikings are cool, but we've done it, you know what I mean? These Mayo Saxons out here, we've done it. It's fine. We can move on. And so, yeah, I think that just encouraging people to find unique stories, interesting stories, getting the right people in to tell those stories, so that we don't end up with
appropriation problems.
Exactly, yeah. And, you know, sensitivity consultants, there's so many people out there that are just doing absolutely incredible work. I always want to shout out James Mendes-Hodes, who he is an incredible sensitivity consultant who's worked on so many things. We've had him on several episodes of Through Black Halflings, and he's worked on loads of stuff within the TTRPG space. If anyone's out there trying to create something like this and they want a sensitivity consultant, I couldn't recommend James highly enough. And you know, finding people like James and you know, paying James the good money and putting in the work, and, you know, making something really cool, and so that, you know, people can feel seen within the space. I honestly think that's the most important thing, is that people feel seen in the space, because I think as soon as you feel seen, you feel willing to get involved. I think that myself and some others who came well before me are just kind of brash and stupid enough to be like, I don't care, like, I'm just gonna get involved anyway. But again, that's like a position that I wouldn't necessarily recommend that every minority put themselves in, because it's incredibly scary at times and not the most fulfilling. Do you know what I mean? Because you will sit there and be like, oh, this is weird, like, everyone's telling us that we have content which is just as good as these guys, yet they have 20 times more followers than we do, or they're getting this much more successful. And that stuff's hard to process because you're like,
yeah, comparison is the thief of joy, all these sayings.
For sure. Unfortunately, I think we're still in like an exceptionalist kind of space with TTRPG content, which is where like everyone that makes kind of POC minority content has to be like the best of the best, and like if it's not incredible, then it's like it kind of like feels like maybe it shouldn't be here, or do you know what I mean? And I do think that's partly just because there's such a lack of the content still, that it feels like we're still in a place where we're having to like prove ourselves all the time. You know, like I'm feeling very, very aware that like at Three Black Halflings, I don't want to drop a season which is like 5 out of 10. You know what I mean? Because people will just stop listening. Do you know what I mean? Or not give it the space that maybe other shows get when they drop a 5 out of 10. And that's not to say anyone out there is trying to make a 5 out of 10. Do you know what I mean? Just to clarify.
Yes,
but it's just that we're still very much in a space where it's like POCs and minorities are kind of required, in order to get success, are required to operate at the highest level right from the get-go, as opposed to kind of getting away with like stumbling your way through, you know, and whatever. Like we didn't find any real success until we started really getting our stuff together. Do you know what I mean?
It takes work, and the work shows off. It pays off.
Yeah.
But not everyone has the time, financial, mental capacity to do that.
So many blockers,
especially for POC, I've always likened it to think of it as a race on 2 separate tracks. You have, let's say, a stereotypical, typical white Caucasian man on this regular racetrack that you can imagine straight, like at any school or track and field. And the parallel one is one that isn't straight, has potholes. The runner is POC, men even have shoes on. And then there's like an angry lion on the side.
I was going to say, there's a lion. There's for sure there's a lion.
And as calmly as the person on the clean track runs, and as hard and as fast and as much energy as they're expending, they're going to be at different places. The challenges are different. The realities are different.
For sure. And I think that it's very interesting because there is a within the like white male community, there are a lot of people who recognize that privilege. There are some people that struggle to see that privilege. And then even on, you know, I think about myself, you know, I think of myself as having enormous privilege that I was able to start Three Black Halflings. You know, the only reason I was able to do so was because I had a full-time job which kept me employed during lockdown, and I got to work from home. You know what I mean? Like without that, I would never have been able to start the show. There's no way I'd have had the time, even access to resources. Like my job gave me a Mac, you know what I mean? So that I could edit stuff. I wouldn't have had that if I wasn't doing this job, and if I wasn't lucky enough to get that job in the first place. So it's super like, so what I'm saying is I can understand the temptation that a lot of white men have to be like, whoa, no, I have struggled though. And I have this has been difficult. But you still have to realize that it's relative to other people. And when you take that into consideration, you know, like I would say, I've struggled, but in comparison to other people, or in comparison to what other people might be going through trying to get something like Three Black Halflings started, I've had a breeze. You know what I mean? Like it has been so much simpler for me. And so therefore my job, and I think the job of those above me, becomes putting and lowering the ladder back down to make it easier, or, you know, give the other runner a clean pair of shoes, or fill in a pothole every once in a while, or, you know, maybe trank the lion and set it, you know, take it back out to the wild and let it live its life. You know what I mean? Like that kind of, it's like that kind of thing.
People, they talk a lot. They do the retweets, they say this and that, but what are we actually doing? What are the concrete things we can do to elevate, to open those doors, to tell them that your contributions are welcome, your presence is needed, we need your stories? One of the ways Roll for Good did that's like, we're going to ensure that we have POC representation at the highest organizational levels. One of the ways that, for example, Dicebreak does it is they put live in the top billing of who are we. Like our beautiful face is right there in the top organizational people. So what are some ways that people don't just walk the walk, but they can talk the talk, you can say?
Absolutely. I think first of all, you've nailed it. This was a big conversation that I was having with a large company the other day, when we were talking about sort of diversity. And I was like, "Oh, cool, let's just go onto your website." And we went onto the website, and they were boasting about this super diverse workforce that they had, but every single picture on all of the stuff was all, and they were like, "Oh, that wasn't," and I'm like, "Yes, I completely appreciate that was completely coincidental. It was who was in the office that day, and it just happened to be all white folks, but that makes a difference." And unfortunately, you have to go out of your way to improve that situation. You know what I mean? If you're
and in a way that
to...
doesn't tokenize the people either.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think if you're if you, and because that was a sort of follow up, is like, oh, how do we do that without being like, hey, we want to call all the POCs into the office or whatever so we can take pictures of you? And I'm like, well, because you need to yeah, exactly. And I was like, okay, yeah, that yeah, let me answer that one. But I was like, you need to find a way to uplift these people, to make them feel like, well, not just make them feel like, but give them a spotlight, give them a voice within the company. You know, why not give them actual resource to host like diversity and inclusion meetings, and you know, where they can then discuss the things that are going on with the company. And maybe after you've done that for a few months, maybe you do want to get a couple pictures of the diversity and inclusion, because there's actually like an established, you know, thing in place that you can actually boast about, you can actually talk about, and you can actually be you know, point to, as opposed to just being like, these are pictures of people that work at our company,
who they themselves feel representative, who they themselves
exactly.
feel like they have a stake, feel like their decisions matter, and who are part of the overall network rather than just being like...
Yes, exactly. And I think then, and I said to them, I said, I think that you'll find that people who you then do put on your website will be very glad to be there and very happy to be there, because they'll feel empowered by it. And so I guess that leads me on to the main thing that I would say, which is that we need to empower people. One of the things that I've been really interested in recently is I've been doing a lot of research and like listening to some podcasts and things like that about like cash charity, as opposed to like, oh, we're donating, I don't know, 50 bags of potatoes to Africa. It's like, instead just trusting and giving people the cash, like people who are in impoverished situations, giving them the cash to actually, because they understand their situation better than you ever will.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
If you trust people, you give them dignity and you empower them, they will make the choices that are right for them and their families, etc. As an industry, I think that the way that people can really walk the walk, if that's what they want to do, is like, do the work, find creators, build a rapport with them, build a trust with them, so that you feel like you are in a place where you'd feel comfortable supporting them, and then just support the hell out of them. And that doesn't necessarily mean you yourself have to give up all of your money or something like that, or your company's money or whatever. But like, there are so many ways that you can support which will have a monetary impact on a show. You know, whether it's listening to the show, whether it's like you know, even just like buying pieces of the show's merchandise, you know,
and
what I
then
mean?
wearing it in places that matter.
And then wearing it in places that
Hey,
matter.
look at that.
You know, I literally just actually got sent this. I was so happy with how it turned out. I hadn't seen it in the flesh before, and God, it's beautiful.
RFG exclusive. I mean, everything you've been saying, I can also imagine going down at the TTRPG at the table, even if it's off stream. Note who your friends are, note who was in the building that day. Ask yourself, why is my building or why is my circle of friends this way? Don't tokenize, go out, empower, educate, empower them if POCs are at your table. Let them be part of your story. Let them contribute, appreciate what they can grow, what they can offer, how deep and meaningful they can make it. And then when they have good ideas, or they have, hey, DM, I have this thing I want to pitch to you about a backstory. I have this hook. Bring it in. Show them that they are appreciated. Let that be seen as your home games, at the friendly local gaming store, at your streamed games, and then at industry level further up. That's how we sort of bring each other up.
Yeah, yeah, I couldn't agree more, and I think that showcasing that the game is accessible like that, and it's ultimately, like, this game has to be a space where you can take risks and be rewarded for those risks. You can be bold and brave and be, whatever version of yourself that you want to be or you want to portray, and that will be like met with like grace and kindness and fun and whatever it may be that you're searching for. And I think when you see that, then absolutely people will be like, oh, wait, like, there's a version of this game for me. And maybe it's not, the way that Brenna Lee Mulligan DMs, or the way that Jeremy Cobb DMs, or, whatever. Maybe it is the way that your best friend from down the road DMs. But that's, like, perfect. It's like, I think the game is so adaptable. And so therefore whenever anyone says to me, like, oh, I don't think I like Dungeons and Dragons, you haven't had the right DM. Like, you haven't played in the right game, you haven't played at the right table. Because I think it is so adaptable. It genuinely is for everyone, like, in a way that I don't think many things in the world are. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of things that try to be for everyone, but it's like, you're really shoehorning this to make it appropriate for X person or Y, whatever. Whereas with this game, I genuinely think with TTRPGs, they are so wonderfully open, and just in the nature of how they are made and how they are designed, I think that everyone can find a seat at the table, and should, because it's really good for you. I genuinely believe it's good for your mental health, for everything, to play, to have these experiences and have this time with your friends and people that you like.
That's absolutely in a nutshell, the values we have at Roll for Good. And that when we take this energy of appreciating everything that the world does that inspires us in our games, we kind of transform that energy into fundraising for charities, fundraising for causes we care about. And it's not just that the TTRPG as a general really comes together and does this wonderfully, wonderfully well. And we're really proud to be part of that wave swell of goodness and compassion. And particularly, we want to inspire communities here in the UK and Europe as well, to say, you don't need to set your time zone clocks to 2 a.m. to get to North America to do it. It's here. Yeah. You can be part of it here. And you can see yourself, whether you're a queer, POC, neurodivergent, femme, woman, it's here. We don't have to import it.
Absolutely. I completely agree.
If a time machine, stopping time was a thing, more hours and a day were a thing. And if magically one could have uninterrupted rest to the point that your body and mind are fulfilled.
Wow.
What one shot would you have wanted to play at an event like this for charity?
Wow. Oh, okay. So I'm just perfectly rested, I'm perfectly chilled, and I get to just play a one shot.
And everything else also fits and works in your life.
Okay, yeah. So I just get to think about this one shot. Wow. What a treat that would be. I've had 2 phone calls just during this conversation, so honestly, the idea of that would be wonderful. Mwah, chef's kiss. Okay. I recently, well, shout out actually to Sharmini Bundell, who you just mentioned there, over at RP Geeks. I love Sharmini so much. We were so blessed to have Sharmini as a part of the recent Wagadu Tales series that we did. But we did a sci-fi, my first ever kind of proper sci-fi adventure. I'm a big sci-fi nerd, but like, mostly because I love the kind of political intrigue and the kind of like all the kind of like big, large scale, kind of galactic battle stuff. And, who doesn't like laser swords? So I think that I would probably say a sci-fi adventure that features like lots of political intrigue. Basically, I'm thinking like Dune, but maybe with just like less kind of very complex kind of mental calculus.
Okay,
and,
okay, okay.
and more laser source.
I
That's
think
right.
you'd really like Starfinder, which is the space version of Pathfinder.
Yes, I've been desperate to play Starfinder for a long time.
There's a lot of factions. The story, especially if we follow the first Seekers, kind of it's sort of the Adventures League version for Starfinders.
Okay.
But there are a lot of outer worlds with developed cultures, political factions. There's a race called Skittermanders, and they're Ewoks with 6 arms. And the creator described them as communist Care Bears.
Wow. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
There's corporations. There's evil scientists. There's the good ones. There's the bad ones. There's knights. There's Hell Knights, which literally have their soul on fire coming out of their space armor. What? I think you'd really like Starfinder.
Yeah, I think I would love Starfinder. Well, look, listen, in that universe where I have the said time machine, I am there with bells on. And yeah, I just wanted to say that if there's anyone that's here watching this because I'm here, first of all, hi, thank you so much. But, like, please go and support these guys. You know, what they're doing is amazing, and I know we've talked about a lot of like big and lofty ideas during this thing, but like just showing up, watching the stuff, sharing it, all of that kind of stuff is still so valuable, and it is the it's the lifeblood of this community. And like without places like Roll for Good, like we wouldn't be getting anywhere. So please continue to support these guys, because I'm very honored to have been involved, and I'm just sorry that I couldn't do more.
You did so much, Jasper. Thank you so much for your valuable time. Thank you for putting in the work. Thank you for being, I'm going to loft you up and putting you on the pedestal here. Thank you for being that beacon in the community. We see you, I see you. You support you. Your work is opening doors for so many people, and we don't see it because not everyone has the spoons to do what we're doing, to go out on a limb. But I firmly believe that you, the 3 Black Halflings, other POC in the community, other queer, disabled, gender diverse peoples are making a difference. And we're making the community we want to play in. And it's all thanks to your contributions and you taking the time to being here and help us out. Thank you so much for your time, Jasper.
Incredibly kind. Thank you.
I speak truths. And with that, we hope to see you around. Best of luck, and greetings to the other Black Halflings as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much.